Welcome to this tutorial. To celebrate the release of my new Procreate wedding bar bundle, my next 3 Procreate tutorials are going to be focused on bringing to life some wedding bar concepts. I'll drop the link to my new brush set in the description below, and I'd also love to share with you my taster brush set. This free brush set includes some of my brushes that I use most often in my illustrations, as well as some of my favourites. Again, I'll put a link below to get this sent straight to your inbox. In this illustration, I'm going to be using a few of my new brush stamps from my bar brush set. This brush set has 120 brush stamps that I've created by hand. I've included a variety of bars, bar backs and shelves, as well as some carts and decor and signage. And in this tutorial, I've also used one of my brushes from my glassware brush set, a brush from my greenery brush set, and in all of my illustrations, I always use some of my cool brushes that I've added into my basic brush set. And these are all available in my Etsy store. Again, I'll put a link below so you can find your way there. So in this tutorial, I'll guide you through the steps to bring this bar design to life. But if you're looking for more of a comprehensive guide to creating detailed designs of your wedding tables and also learning a lot more about the Procreate interface, I do have a wedding table digital illustration course which is open for registration right now. And you can see here, these are the modules included. It's a very comprehensive course and it gives you time to work through it slowly in your own time. Again, there's a link below if you want to check out more about this course. So this is the illustration we're going to create today. I'm going to show you how to create this very simple white bar with this bar stamp. We're going to include this set of shelves, which also comes in that new bar brush set. We're going to add some bottles and glasses to the shelving, add this drinks menu to the bar, a wine cooler, and then just set it off with a backdrop of greenery. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this so we can use it as a reference. I'm going to go into my gallery. I'm going to tap the plus button and create a screen-sized canvas. And I'm going to import that image just so we can reference it in this top left corner. Okay, so firstly let's create the bar. What I'm going to do to start with is change this background colour because we're going to be creating a white bar and it's easier to work when you just have a slightly different background colour to the white. And then on a new layer, I'm going to go into my bar bundle and I'm going to select brush number 2. I'm going to start with a black outline just whilst we create the design and tap on the screen. And then go and duplicate that layer. As always, drop white into that bottom layer, add a clipping mask, and then from the basics brush set, select that watercolour brush. And I'm going to add some shading into kind of the darker areas of this bar just to highlight the fact that these are kind of indented details on the front. So on that clipping mask, using the watercolour brush, I'm going to select a dark grey, but lower the opacity right down. And then we're just going to start adding kind of shadows just to where we think wouldn't get as much light. And then you want to build up the shading in these areas. To add some depth to them. So I'm going to increase the opacity slightly. and add a darker variant of that colour. And then tapping on our smudge brush, and in the basic brush set, as always, we're going to use this wet smudge brush. Just go over those grey tones we've added, blending them gently, just to give it a little bit more of a realistic look. And then to save time, what I'm going to do is use my selection tool and the rectangle option. Select that one lot of shading, and I'm just going to move it down to this next detail. Make a duplicate of that and then move it down again. And that's just saved us a little bit of time. And now on that top layer, select it. Hold 2 fingers down on that layer to select it and select colour fill. And then we're going to go find a colour that we want to have as the outline. If you move your stylus around the screen, you'll see that different colours going to make this pop, and you know, you can have something that's really different or something really subtle. I'm just going to stick with a grey, like so. I'm going to group those together. I'm going to duplicate that group, flatten it down. I'll drop it back into that group so it sits right at the bottom. And then to make a really quick shadow, you're going to move it down and left. Take all the brightness out of that layer. Add a Gaussian blur of around 7%. And then drop the opacity down to between 10 and 20%. And then you can adjust the location of this. Okay, so that's our bar created. I'm going to turn that layer off now. Add a new layer. Going back into our bar bundle, let's go and select shelves number 53. Which is this brush right here. I'm going to select a gold for the edge. I'm going to tap on the screen. And again, working through those layers, we duplicate, drop white into the outline, add that clipping mask, and then using the watercolor brush, let's fill that shape in with color. Select a darker color and just add a few areas of contrast. Add a few areas of highlight. Use our smudging brush, we can blend those colours in together. And as always, I'm just showing you a quick tutorial for now. The more layers and detail you add, the more realistic your output will be. But I like to show you this way so that we can get through these tutorials fairly quickly. At this point, I'm going to amend the colour of this layer to create more of a kind of light bronze and take out some of that gold saturation. I'm going to amend the colour of that outline layer by holding 2 fingers on that layer. to select it and use our colour fill, we can just select a colour which we think brings that shape to life. And then what I want to do is just come in and add some glass shelving in here, so they're not all gold shelves. To do that, I'm going to come in with my freehand tool, make sure our colour fill option is deselected. I'm just going to come in, tap on the areas where the shelves are. I'm going to use my eraser brush to take away that gold. And I'm going to select a very light grey with just a touch of blue in it. With our watercolour brush, just going to add on there a very light pressure of colour. We want to be able to see through this, so just add a tiny bit of colour. And then with the shading brush from the basic brush set, let's just come in here with a few kind of streaks of light. And now I can unselect that selection. And we have some glass shelves. So then we have our shelves. I'm going to group those 3 layers together. And then let's add some bottles and glasses to these shelves. So I'll turn that layer off. I'll create a new layer. So now I'm going to go into our glassware brush set and select glass number 7. Have white as the outline. Duplicate that layer. So add white into that bottom layer. And we don't need to do too much detail because these won't be that visible once, like the detail isn't that visible once we've reduced the size of these down. So all I'm going to do, swipe right there to set the alpha lock. I'm going to take my watercolour brush as an eraser and just take out some of the white on this layer, and that gives us that transparent look. Take the alpha lock off and let's just smudge those eraser marks in, and then using that shading brush and our white colour, just come in and add a couple of details on the edge there. And you can decide to have the outline on or off at this point. I think I'll have it off. I think it looks better. I'm going to turn our shelves back on. And let's resize this glass just so it sits nicely on one of our shelves. So let's duplicate that layer. Move one of the glasses over to the right. And do that one more time. Now we have a set of 3 glasses, which we can now merge into one layer. And I will just start duplicating these sets of glasses onto our shelving. Like so. With that top layer, I'm just going to go and take my eraser and just erase the portion of the glass there that sits on that shelf. I'm going to group those into a group. Now let's add some bottles to this shelf. So in that bar bundle, we're looking for brush 93, which is one of the bottle outlines. Again, tap on the screen with the white outline. We'll go and add white into that bottom layer. We can set the alpha lock and just erase some of that white so that we can see through the bottle. And then we have to take the alpha lock off so that we can smudge those eraser marks in. And now I'm going to add another layer above that layer. And I'm not going to set this as a clipping mask because a clipping mask refers to the pixels in the layer below, and because we've just erased some of those, it won't work in this instance. So let's go into our basic brush set and select our round brush. I'm going to select a gold colour, and either using your selection tool or doing this by hand, just add in some colour to that top bit there. In fact, I'm going to use my watercolour brush for this. And again, just over this label, maybe adjust the colour slightly for this ribbon. Go, just quickly add some detail, although it doesn't matter too much because we're not going to see too much of these detailings once this bottle's on the shelf. So add a few little details. I'm going to take my round eraser brush and just tidy up those edges. And then let's decide if we want our outline on or off. I think I'll keep it on for this one. I'll just merge those into one. Let's turn on the shelves and the glasses again. And we're going to resize this bottle so it sits on the alternate shelves. And just like before, let's duplicate those bottles out. So you've got as many as you'd like to have. We can select a number of those bottles on the shelves and build them out like this. I'm going to select just 3 of those bottles, copy and paste to make a new layer, and they can sit on that shelf right there. And again, duplicate those bottles over to the right. I'm going to merge those into one layer, and actually I'm going to do the same with the glasses so we can save on our layers a little bit. So let's organise our layers now so they sit in order on the screen. So the thing at the very forefront of your image is the bar. So the bar layer, it's going to sit right at the top, and you can see it pops in front of those shelves. Now let's move that down and centre it on the screen. If you don't see these lines appear, you want to go into your snapping option here and just toggle that so it's on, and that way you'll see lines appear when it aligns with, like, orange is centre of the screen, and blue is other layers within the canvas. So now let's select our bottles, our glasses and our shelves because we're happy with the placement of them. I'm going to make those one big group. I think I'm going to actually reduce the size of this bar. So with my uniform selection, I'm going to just reduce the size down slightly. And then I'm going to make it slightly wider, center it on the screen. And with that bar group, center that on the screen, just raise it up slightly. Now I'm going to add two pieces of detail to the bar. So the first thing is this sign. So for now, let's turn off those two groups. We add a new layer. And we're looking in the bar brush bundle, we're looking for number 114, which is one of the signs, this one here. I'm going to have gold as the outline. Again, we duplicate, we drop white into the outline. I'm going to add a clipping mask. Let's add some gold into the stand of this sign. Select a lighter colour. Just to give it that metallic look, and as well just add a couple areas of shadow, and then we use our smudge brush just to blend those in. And at this point, to adjust that gold colour, I can just come in here and make some adjustments to it here. And now I want to add, make this kind of look like a glass insert with some writing on it. So I am going to use my selection tool and my rectangle option on that bottom layer. I'm going to select it. I'm going to take my watercolor eraser brush and just take out some of the layers of white that's in that bottom layer, so that you can start to see that background colour come through. We can unselect that now. And then using another layer, which automatically gets set as a clipping mask, but we don't want that on this option. Again, in our basic brush set, there is the Heavy Leaves brush, which I quite like to use for kind of very loose lettering. So we are not going to worry at all about the detail, because you won't be able to see this when it's scaled down onto the bar. So just give the impression that there are there's wording, calligraphy wording on this sign. We can then go two-finger hold on that top layer. Allows us to adjust the outline of this sign. I think I'll have it set quite light, and then once we're happy, you can pinch to merge those together. And then turning our other layers back on, and our uniform option selected, let's scale this down so it sits nicely on this bar. And I think I want to make this bar slightly wider. So in this inspiration image here, you can see the bar, the sign and the wine cooler sit kind of outside of the shelving. So what I'm going to do to adjust that is find our bar layer. I'm actually going to flatten that into one layer. With our freeform move tool, let's just adjust the width of that. And let's also adjust the size of that shelving. And it just gives us space on the edge then to place this sign. And I want to angle this so it's slightly towards the center of the canvas. So what I'm going to use is use my distort tool. I'm just going to take these edges and kind of move them back so it looks like this sign is facing us towards the center of the screen. The next thing is to add this wine cooler. So again, let's turn off the layers here so we can see the screen. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to go find brush 102 and I'm going to use some colors referenced in this image here. So go and select a light color for the outline. As always, we duplicate, we drop white into that bottom layer. We add our clipping mask, and then using that watercolor brush, and this, we're going to kind of go for this kind of chrome look on this bucket. Very loosely add some darker colours as well as some highlights. Merge those together, and then I'm going to add a couple of streaks of light on the side of this. So using this shading brush and a white colour, just come down the side of this bucket here and add a couple of kind of light streaks, and I'll just slightly blend those in. Now, because I'm going to work in this small area, I'm going to use this round brush, and let's select just a really light icy blue. Again, we'll barely be able to see this in the scaled down version on top of the bar, so don't worry too much about the detail. Just giving the indication that there's ice here. I'm going to go in that bottom layer, and because we want to show that this is a glass bottle, let's just take out a little bit of the white. Back in that clipping mask, select a green for the bottle, and then just kind of colour in these areas, adding different bits of pressure at different stages here. And then add a little bit of gold detail here and on the top. And I'm going to keep my outline selected for this layer. I'm going to merge those into one, and then we can place that bucket on the right hand side of the bar. The very last thing to do is to add this kind of greenery backdrop to this. So adding a new layer that sits right at the bottom of your canvas, but in front of your background. What we're going to do is go into greenery brush set number 2, which is my dynamic greenery brushes. I'm going to select brush G26. I'm going to select a green colour, and for now I'll turn that reference image off. I'm going to basically just draw a line along the top here that just goes outside of the bar, just to create the outline of this backdrop, which is kind of going to look like a box hedge. And then quite simply just go and colour that in. Don't worry if there's a few gaps, we'll fill those in a second. And you can see, because we made those glasses and bottles transparent. You can see this greenery through them. And then adding another layer below that, I'm going to select a lighter green with the same brush and just come in behind those layers we've just added, just to give that two-tone effect. And the final thing I'm going to do is group all of these into one, and I'm going to reduce the size of them all together so they sit on my screen nicely. And I want to add just the hint that there's a floor and a backdrop here, just to give it that perspective look. So I'm going to go back to that background colour and I'm going to set that to white. And then again, adding a layer at the very bottom, my selection tool with the rectangle option selected, just select the bottom portion of this canvas. Just choose a grey to represent the floor. I'm just going to use my wet smudge brush here just to blur that slightly so it's not standing out. And then, as always, adding a new layer at the very top of your layers, drop white into that layer. You're going to take your watercolour brush and with a very light pressure just go over where you can see the edges of your design. Turn the transparency right back up to maximum, because now we can see the edges a little clearer. And then just go over your design here, taking off layers. We just want to give it a tiny hint of that watercolour effect. If we toggle that layer on and off, you can just see it kind of softens our illustration and adds a hint of that kind of watercolour look. So there you go, there's our bar illustration created using the bar brush set, as well as a couple of other brushes from the glassware and the greenery brush set, and as always using a few of our basic brushes. So you can see very quickly how you can bring your concepts to life and elevate your client presentations for your future couples. Again, links in the description below to the new bar brush bundle, as well as my free taster brush set if you want to add those to your Procreate library. And if you want to learn more about my more comprehensive course where I show you how to create wedding table illustrations on your iPad, again, the link is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and you got some value from this. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and you'll be the first to see when I have new tutorials drop. For the next 2 months, I will be doing more bar designs using these brushes and just showing you different techniques, different styles, so you can kind of be able to create these for your clients yourself. Thank you so much for watching.